Hi, I'm David Lumsden, Village Administrator for the Village of Glendale. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the upcoming proposed 4.5 mil permanent improvement levy for the village, as well as ongoing infrastructure and financial planning. This November, voters in the village will be able to vote on a 4.5 mil 10-year permanent improvement road and bridge levy for the Village of Glendale. This levy will only be used for road and bridge construction in the village, and it cannot be used for salaries and operations. If passed, this levy will cost property owners about $158 per year per $100,000 in property value. For the average Glendale homeowner, that will be about $600 per year. The levy will generate $614,000 for the village each year for a 10-year period. Permanent improvement levies are restricted by state law. The funds may only be used for road and bridge reconstruction and repair. The village has identified over $6.7 million in road repaving projects over the next 10 years, representing about 60% of all streets maintained by the village. In this presentation, we'll review some of those infrastructure projects, as well as additional financial planning information related to capital work in the village. As part of the village's strategic plan community survey, about 57% of respondents said that infrastructure should be the first priority investment for the Village of Glendale. Over the last 5 years, the village has accomplished about $5.2 million in various infrastructure projects, including a new water main on Sharon Avenue, repaving of Sharon Avenue, a new water main on Albion Avenue, and repaving of Albion Avenue, and other stormwater improvements, including the new stormwater system on Albion and Hedgerow Avenues and the Oak Road retention pond. This year, the village replaced the water main on Forest, Fountain, and Ivy Avenues with the intention of repaving those streets once the water main work was complete. During excavation for the water main on Ivy Avenue, we discovered that the street was in much worse condition than we anticipated. Now, typically, a street has a significant sub and base layer that support the asphalt that we drive on. On Ivy Avenue, there was no sub-base layer for the support of the asphalt on Ivy Avenue. For that reason, any repaving work on Ivy would require a complete rebuild of that base layer to ensure longevity for the street. Over the next 10 years, the village has identified almost 8.5 miles of its streets for repaving projects, totaling an estimated $6.7 million in work. It's important to note that that project planning includes the repaving of the village's streets, not just resurfacing. Resurfacing, historically performed by the village, is the installation of a thin rubber membrane and thin layer of asphalt to seal cracks and level rough spots. This work typically has a 5 to 10 year lifespan, but it does not address structural issues with the street. Repaving, which was what was completed on Sharon Road in 2021 and this year on Albion Avenue, includes grinding the top 2 to 3 inches of asphalt, repair of the base layers below that, and then installation of a new 2 to 3 inches of asphalt on top. This installation method provides a 20 to 30 year lifespan for road surfaces, and future repairs are easier and cheaper because the base of the road is stable. The village has also outlined upcoming water main and sewer projects. On this map, completed projects are in green, planned road repaving projects are indicated in yellow, planned water main replacement projects between now and 2035 are indicated in blue, and then planned storm and sanitary sewer projects are indicated in purple and are repaid through water and sewer billing revenue. Finally, I want to address some financial planning work that the village is performing regarding our routine annual capital purchases, as well as planned upcoming infrastructure improvements. It has been the village's mission to use all financial resources available to it in the most efficient way possible every year. The village's approach has been to complete as much work as possible with available financial resources every year. What is important is to do that work in a way that will not put the village in an irreversible position in the future. A number of different resources are available to the village as it takes on capital projects and purchases every year. First is the VPGI fund, the main source of capital projects or purchases for the Village of Glendale. That fund is largely self-maintaining, The principal balance generates interest, which is then transferred into VPGI to cover capital purchases. This cycle functions as long as that principal is available. The annual routine capital purchases for the village total $200,000 to $300,000, and this covers purchases like police cars, fire gear, and service department equipment and trucks. This allows the village to maintain annual routine capital purchases without the need for additional funding from taxpayers. The village also has funding through the Street Construction Fund, which is gas tax and license plate tax receipts from the state of Ohio. That funding totals about $200,000 per year, can be used for some operational expenses as well. The village also does pursue grants whenever available, and those grants help us to offset the cost of anticipated projects. This year, the village received a $1.18 million grant from SORTA for the repaving of Fountain and Ivy Avenues. This grant helps offset the cost of repaving those streets and addressing the structural issues below them. I'll answer some frequently asked questions about the village's upcoming proposed permanent improvement levy, as well as infrastructure and financial planning processes. First, what restricts the use of levy funds to road and bridge maintenance? Well, the village's proposed levy funds are restricted to road repaving, repair, and maintenance by both the Ohio Revised Code as well as the resolution passed by council that placed this levy on the ballot this November. When will the levy show up on property tax bills? The levy will start with the January 2026 property tax bill if it is passed. How many miles of streets does the village maintain? The village is responsible for over 14 miles of streets, while Congress and State Route 4 are maintained by ODOT. How are the streets selected for work as part of the levy? Beginning in 2020, the village replaced the water main along Sharon Avenue. After that work was completed, the next year, the village repaved Sharon Avenue. Working with our engineer, we've developed a list of streets by condition, priorities, and other infrastructure projects, like water and sewer replacements. The village is anticipating 2 significant water main replacement phases, one in 2027 to 2028, and 2023 to 2035. If this levy passes, when does the village plan to begin work? The village would receive levy funds beginning in about February of 2026, and then the road repaving work would be scheduled to begin in spring of that same year. Is the village planning on applying for and using grant funds for road projects? Yes. The village is awarded a $1.8 million grant for the repaving of Fountain and Ivy Avenues. The village will continue to apply for grant funds whenever they are available. These grant funds will make extra funding available for additional projects. What if the levy doesn't pass? If the proposed levy doesn't pass, council and village administration will jointly evaluate anticipated projects and prioritize them based on needs and available financial resources each budget year. In summary, on the November 4th ballot, Issue 12 will appear for Glendale voters. This is the Road and Bridge Permanent Improvement Levy. It's a $4.5 million levy for 10 years. The funds generated by this levy are restricted by law for road and bridge construction, reconstruction, and repair projects only. It will generate about $6.1 million for the village over that 10-year period. We've also covered some of the village's infrastructure planning for the next 10 years, as well as financial planning and resources that the village uses to achieve those goals, as well as other capital projects and purchases. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the village at 513-771-7200 or me directly by email on the screen below. And as always, remember to vote. Polls open on Tuesday, November 4th at 6:30 a.m. at 80 East Sharon Avenue for Glendale voters. If you have questions about voting or need help or resources on what's coming up on this November's election, please contact the Hamilton County Board of Elections directly. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out.